Why healthcare IT projects fail at compliance, not code. So, HIPAA compliance software development. It's something a lot of people ask about, and today we're going to walk through it step by step. Now, next up, why HIPAA compliance breaks healthcare software projects. Most healthcare IT failures trace back to a fundamental misunderstanding. HIPAA compliance isn't a feature you add at the end. It's a constraint that shapes every architectural decision from the first sprint. Development teams often approach HIPAA compliant software development like any other enterprise project. They build the core functionality, then layer on security controls before launch. This approach fails because HIPAA requirements affect database design, API architecture, logging systems, and user workflows at a foundational level. When compliance becomes a checkpoint instead of a constraint, teams face expensive rework. We've seen projects require complete database redesigns because audit logging wasn't built into the schema. Others needed API rewrites because authentication flows didn't support the granular access controls HIPAA mandates. Let's talk about now, core HIPAA technical requirements for software development. HIPAA's security rule breaks down into three safeguard categories: administrative, physical, and technical. For software development teams, the technical safeguards drive most architectural decisions. HIPAA requires unique user identification, emergency access procedures, and automatic log-off capabilities. But the regulation doesn't specify implementation details, which creates confusion. For HIPAA compliant software development, this means. Next up, moving on to common compliance mistakes in healthcare IT projects. Even experienced teams make predictable errors when building HIPAA compliant software development solutions. These mistakes aren't technical failures, they're governance failures. The biggest mistake: treating HIPAA compliance as a box-checking exercise. Teams implement the obvious requirements but miss the spirit of the regulation. HIPAA requires risk analysis and risk management processes. This means documenting threats, assessing likelihood and impact, and implementing mitigations. A checklist approach misses this entirely. Next up, let's talk about building HIPAA-compliant architecture on Azure. Cloud platforms simplify HIPAA compliance but don't eliminate it. Azure offers HIPAA-eligible services, but you're still responsible for configuring them correctly. Microsoft maintains a list of Azure services that can be used with PHI under a BAA. This includes. But using eligible services doesn't make your application compliant. You still need to configure access controls, enable logging, and implement proper key management. Next up, now, the human factor: governance beyond technology. Technology alone doesn't ensure compliance. HIPAA requires workforce training, incident response procedures, and ongoing risk assessment. These human factors determine whether technical controls actually work. HIPAA mandates security awareness training for all workforce members. This includes developers, not just clinical staff. Your .NET development company should provide HIPAA training for their team members who access your systems. Training topics must cover. Next up, now, modernization strategies for legacy healthcare systems. Many healthcare organizations run critical workloads on legacy .NET framework applications. Modernizing these systems while maintaining compliance requires careful planning. The Strangler Fig pattern for modernization lets you incrementally replace legacy components without full rewrites. This approach works well for HIPAA-compliant software development because you can add compliance controls to new components while maintaining legacy operations. Implementation steps. Next up, now, cost and timeline expectations. Healthcare IT projects cost more than comparable non-healthcare projects. The compliance overhead adds time and expense, but skipping compliance costs far more in breach penalties. Expect 20 to 30% cost premium for HIPAA compliance software development compared to similar non-healthcare projects. This premium covers. When asking how much does custom software development cost for healthcare, factor in these compliance costs from the start. Under budgeting leads to corners being cut on compliance controls. Now, conclusion. Healthcare IT projects fail at compliance because teams treat HIPAA as a checklist instead of a design constraint. HIPAA compliant software development requires building compliance into every architectural decision, from database schema to API design to logging infrastructure. The organizations that succeed treat compliance as a competitive advantage. They document their risk assessments, train their teams, and build governance frameworks that scale. When auditors arrive, they're not scrambling, they're demonstrating controls that have been in place for years. If you're starting a healthcare IT project, invest in compliance from day one. Work with a .NET development company that understands HIPAA requirements. Build audit trails into your architecture. Train your team on PHI handling. And remember, the cost of compliance is always less than the cost of a breach.